Welcome to partialarc.com. Don't do that.
You find yourself in a tavern.
Yo, we should have checked for traps.
I knew he forgot something.
I think I can reason with him.
You killed his father.
Can I have sex with it?
You could certainly try.
I'm gonna touch a sword.
Don't touch the sword!
The child is evil, right?
Obviously.
I could cast Fireball.
Always cast fireball.
All right, roll for it. Welcome to Friday Night Quests. I'm your host and Dungeon Master, Jay Jones. This week brings you the Aftermath episode for our adventure with Matt Kane. First, we'll chat with the cast and talk to Matt about his first time playing D&D. Then, I'll sit down with my fellow producers, and we'll talk about the design of this adventure, and the very unexpected direction it took. So without further ado, let's get to our interview with the cast.
I mean, the town must love Izzy because she's bringing everybody back to life.
Yeah. They'll probably erect a statue of you at this point.
Yeah.
An erection.
It should be, my torso should be me, but the bottom half should just be bare butt.
But they
Hang
mistranslate.
on, B-E-A-R?
They mistranslate.
B-A-R-E?
They're like-
Or B-A-R-E.
B-E-A-R.
The sculptor's like, well, she said no pants.
She said no pants. Here we go.
I thought you were meant like the top half is you with your arms outsplayed, the bottom half is all the people you've brought back to life.
Oh, yeah. Magic is might.
It's just like you striking a dramatic pose, like fists in the air, and then there's just like, you know, a halfling at one of your legs and like a high elf.
High elf, yeah.
And then a human person just being like, I'm the same.
Wow.
And she has no pants on.
And I have no pants on.
That was insane.
What, that adventure?
Yeah.
That was a crazy adventure.
That was weird.
And none of you figured out why any of those people turned into Yetis.
Can I roll a retroactive Arcana check to figure that out?
No.
We'll see. We'll do that
I think
later.
it's better to have a mystery.
Yeah.
We'll have to find that out later.
Oh, okay, we'll find
later.
out through the plot.
I still don't
Maybe
know
through
what
the plot.
staff does. I can't believe I...
Yeah, you're like, every time I plant it makes a giant tree.
And?
I did like your idea of just trying to make a giant version of that.
That's great.
Moondrop
With
lily.
the seed, yeah.
It doesn't work that way, but it was fun to think that would happen.
I'll figure that stick out, and then I'll be unstoppable.
Yeah.
It's toppable with this tree stick. So Matt, this was your first time playing D&D.
Oh, yeah.
Man, what a time.
Oh, what did you think of your first time?
I honestly loved it. I honestly loved it. I thought it was so much fun.
You're probably in one of the weirdest episodes.
Yeah.
This is
I
easily
mean,
one of
it's
the weirdest
different.
adventures.
Yeah, so I've listened to some of them before, and this one is quite different to the ones I've listened to. But it was awesome regardless. I mean, it was fun to be involved. It was fun to listen. I think all you guys obviously are quite... You do it enough that you really, like... You know how to take the right steps to make it really entertaining, really interesting, and like the role play element of it is really... I had no idea that the D&D involved that much role play, involved that much imagination. And I think that's such a unique gaming experience to like really just have to think outside the box and do whatever you want to do, really, and then you can kind of like, you know, monitor it and add in the rules through
As
the
you go,
dice.
yeah.
I just think it's so much fun, truly, and I really enjoyed it.
Oh, I'm glad you had a
Yeah.
good time, man.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. for
Yeah,
having
it's good
me.
to have you, dude.
What do you think
Yeah.
of the ranger? Playing that character type.
He was great. I loved, you know, in the battle scenarios, being able to have quite powerful multiple attacks.
Yeah.
That was awesome. The tracking was useful. Yeah, it was cool. I mean, it was kind of what I was hoping it would be. I got out of it what I hoped I would.
Nice.
You know, because I was so unsure before we did it what character Mike and I were speaking leading up to doing it, and I was trying to read through the handbook to look at different advantages and things, and then I just ultimately, after sort of thinking a lot of them were cool, I was like, I'm just going to try and create like the most like awesome mythical version of what I imagine myself would be in the wild, which God knows if I would be that cool. I don't know, probably not, but that's what it turned out as. So it was awesome.
So for this adventure, we dealt with reincarnation. Now you turned into a halfling.
Yeah.
I'd like to hear from each of you. If your characters could reincarnate, what would be a different race that you would like to be reincarnated into?
And we should clarify that it is races, it's playable races. It's not like raccoons. and
Yeah,
things.
not like
Right.
raccoons.
It actually does, I have the list.
I think it'd be really fun role-playing experience to do drow. Like to just come back
Yeah.
as straight drow.
Because there is a lot of, like, the conversations in regular metropolitan town areas would immediately be like, hey, you're an evil elf person,
Yeah.
probably. And you'd
Yeah.
have to overcome a lot of that. So,
And is Izzy a half drow?
She's half drow.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, because it's human and drow together.
Right,
Yep.
cool.
And you kind of have to look close, but you can see the drow hair.
Yeah, like
think
my
it's in our-
eyes are really light, and
Yeah.
that's unusual. But that's about that eyes, and then like the ears, and you look at it, and you're like, ooh, that's
And you don't
not-
have white hair.
I
That's
don't. Not. I think when I get older, my hair will probably end up changing.
Probably.
I mean, mine too.
But
All of our hair goes white eventually.
yeah, no, I mean like all of a sudden,
Right.
it just goes
Like Steve
Ice
Martin.
white. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So I think
She's
there's
Steve Martin's in.
there's
He's a
that.
drow, right?
yeah, he's a drow.
If Izzy could reincarnate, what would you like? What?
Kind of. I've always wanted to be like a tiefling.
Oh,
That
why a
would be-
tiefling?
What's that? What's that?
They-
Tieflings are people who have like demonic heritage. So like someone in their past basically made a pact with some sort of demonic influence that has affected them and made them. They look like Hellboy, basically.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I just think the horns would be really cool.
Yeah.
And like just that I love playing that angle of like, I know I look scary, I know I look creepy and evil, but I assure you I'm not.
Yeah.
That is not who I am. So I think the tiefling would
Here's
be
the
my
art.
next-
This is the
my
art for the
next step.
tiefling.
Very cool.
I'd want to be like really
awesome.
dark purple.
Ooh, a dark purple.
Dark purple.
Yeah, that
That'd
is
be cool.
so cool.
Right?
Yeah,
How
badass.
awesome is
Yeah.
Yeah.
Badass.
Looking
tail?
at it in the book.
So good.
Mike, if you could have reincarnated instead of a halfling, what would be another race you would have liked to have tried for Sweeney?
It's fun. It's funny because Sweeney was very much almost a gnome. Like he
Ah.
really was, and it's why Sweeney speaks gnomish. Actually, I almost decided he was going to be a gnome when we created him, not when we reincarnated. That happened on Mike. I would think it would be really interesting though if he came back as like a dragonborn or something, which would have been not like as good for like my stats would be even worse now. Like I think gnome would be ideal. Halfling's like actually a pretty good pick for Sweeney.
Yeah.
He was born again.
Basically.
Yeah, based on a roll, it came out really well. I
Yeah.
think.
Yeah, it made a
Especially
lot
that
of
increased
sense.
your stats. That's so
It made my
amazing.
dexterity better. My constitution's the same because I'm a stout halfling, which
Instead
is
of
a
a light foot,
stockier,
yeah.
which are like a little less like hobbits, closer to dwarves. Like the idea is that they're so close to dwarves, it's almost like rumored they have dwarven blood. That's what John Kim plays when he comes on and plays the barbarian. It's a stout halfling. All my other stats drop by 1 because humans have a natural +1 to all
everything,
their stats.
yeah. Interesting. And Matt, if you could play your character again as a different race, what would you like him to reincarnate as?
Yeah, dragonborn. He could be a dwarf, an elf, a gnome, half orc,
I
halfling.
think like a badass dwarf, like a really like crazy powerful. Because I think I really like I like playing with other characters who can cast loads of spells and be in the magic. I like the idea for some reason of imagining like just hardcore battle with axes or with like different like all sorts of cool weaponry.
Yeah.
So like a little tough dwarf
with like a bow and arrow and like a
little
short
bow,
sword.
a short sword, like an axe on his back or something, and just like grizzly beard.
That'd be
Badass,
badass.
yeah.
Yeah.
I love crazy dwarf fighters.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right, guys. Well, thanks for coming.
Woo!
On to the next adventure.
All right, guys, I'm sitting here with the producers. We have Jay Jones, who just ran the game,
Hey, everybody.
and we have Niels-Christian.
Hello.
We don't have Andrew Dickinger because he unfortunately wasn't able to attend the recording. He had to miss the session, and boy, what a session to miss.
Yes.
What a game to not be there for. And he doesn't like spoilers. Like, if he can't make it to something, he's like, just fill me in like vague terms, and then I'll listen to the episodes and catch up. And we were just like, oh, we don't even want to tell you, like,
No, not at all.
we don't want to tell you anything about what just happened because Sweeney died.
Yeah. Sweeney died in season 9.
Well, let's start a little earlier with how this adventure came together, and knowing that we didn't resolve everything, like the deal with the people who turned into Yetis,
Yeah.
and some of the stuff that we described about the group itself, as far as there's the one who talks, the one who knocks, the ones whatever it is, the one who knows,
Almost correct.
the ones who knows, the one who thinks, no,
Almost.
the one who acts, the one who speaks, and the one who knows.
Yes. In a different order, but you got it.
Yeah, right.
You got that.
I don't know who's first and third, and I don't have my notes in front of me. But the point is that like we did not get our answers on that. We did not get our answers on the Yeti people. We didn't really figure out what happened with Tyr's wife, and like because he's moving away, we probably won't. He's going on a vacation for 6 months. Or
Yeah,
30 days,
I think
or whatever
it was
it
just
is.
like 30 days. You guys were like, you have to leave now with your kid. And he was like, okay.
well, it's like he can choose not to, but it hurts his brain
yeah.
if he resists every day to psychic damage.
I mean, it
So,
probably sounds like a good idea after what he just saw.
I mean, it's not a bad suggestion.
to leave town.
Yeah. So, setting aside that stuff, setting aside the fact that we didn't really figure out all the answers, how did the adventure begin as far as the idea of doing the trial of Linus Whitaker, essentially?
Really, it started with knowing where we wanted to get as far as the court case. And then it just kind of came down to where we were going to set it and what we were setting off of with this adventure. Because this is essentially the penultimate season of the first year. So we were going into the idea of like, okay, with 10 being our finale of sorts for this year, you know, what can we do to set this up? What answers need to be answered, but what can we still leave out there as breadcrumbs for either season 10 or for even future seasons? So it was this probably out of any of the other adventures had the most plates in the air as far of like, you know, the closest to, I would say, railroad tracks, as people often hear when it comes to a role-playing game, more than anything else. And not that, like, I don't think a lot of the areas was forced, because obviously a lot of things happened that I didn't expect to happen.
One in particular. We'll get there.
But, like, there was a lot in this adventure that you guys needed to discover and need to kind of get grips around. And, boy, was it tricky trying to get all those plates aligned to make that happen.
Yeah. Also, I just like the idea of Law and Order FNQ.
Yeah.
Which I said every time we came up with the idea, just like...
You actually said it in the season 8 aftermath, and I don't think we'd recorded season 9 yet, so I didn't know what you meant.
Oh.
Or like, I mean, it seemed clear we were going to a court thing, but it literally was Law and Order FNQ. It really was that situation exactly.
But it went very differently than expected.
Oh, yeah.
We'll get there. there.
I thought the court thing was definitely going to be the centerpiece of that adventure. I was wrong.
Let's talk a little bit about Matt Kane's character.
Yeah, he had a really fun character, really fleshed out. I remember when we let all of our guests kind of pick their character backgrounds and what type of character they want to be in class, so we don't just like assign them.
Right. Even in the early days, we would bring a bunch of options and then give them a chance to customize. Now we try to talk to them in advance and have them actually build a little more customization into it.
Yeah, and I remember, Mike, you sent me his detail of like what he wanted his character to be, and I read it. It was like a paragraph, and I was like, oh my god, this is like Batman. This sounds awesome.
Yeah, it was like this whole thing about like how he had grown up with a single father, I think, and he had sort of been a little bit of an outsider in his group, and he specifically had in there like 2 or 3 times, like, and he's really bad at talking to people because he spends all his time in the woods, which he played really well.
Yeah, he did. He played really well.
And then you actually gave him a little bit when he was kind of suspicious of us. It didn't quite come to light within the story itself.
Yeah.
But when he first saw us, he was looking for a little something else.
Yeah, I gave him ahead of time some of the guests to work them into the story, because obviously, like, they're going to be a part of the adventure. You have 4 people in each one. I wanted to give him a reason to maybe be suspicious of you guys or to be investigating this area in the first place, instead of just like, hey, I'm just like a random guy in this town, which wouldn't have worked for this town, but we might get to that later.
I mean, it's doable for other adventures,
Yeah.
but this specific layout of like, this town's really creepy. It doesn't make sense to have one guy be like, I know all the answers here.
And I also just happen to be hanging out in this town.
Want a hand?
Nobody passes through this town. This town is also not on a map. But anyways,
Right.
He was basically, I wanted him to play up that ranger bit because that is his character. And before the session started, I actually pulled Matt aside and I was like, hey, because you're a ranger and you're suspicious of these people, especially based on what you just saw beforehand, which...
What did he see before he saw us?
Yeah, I guess since this didn't make it to air, I can explain. So Alathar had come across a caravan previously in the woods just about 2 hours before he came upon you guys, and this caravan had been completely destroyed by what had looked, and like things were taken and there was no people around. Like, basically it looked like they were attacked by wild animals, but something bigger than a bear, but with teeth and claws like a bear. He was very confused, and the whole point and kind of Alathar's angle there was to find, what type of animal, because he's familiar with the wilderness. He didn't know what animal this could be based on its tracks and its movement, and it was leading back to the town where they were heading. Of course, he didn't know there was a town there. He just knew they were going back, so maybe he thought there was a cave or somewhere where this creature would dwell. And Alathar, being the good heart that he was, wants to seek out if there's some terrifying beast here attacking people on the road. So that was kind of his start, which the conversation never came up in the adventure because, of course...
Because it doesn't make sense. Why would he trust us with that information?
Exactly.
And then...
Of course, when he might have, things changed drastically, and a lot of people's focus shifted in the story.
But I think we can draw some conclusions. We haven't gotten to the why, but it seems like people turned into Yetis and then did things that they might not have done otherwise because
Potentially.
of the involvement of a certain somebody.
Who knows?
That's my theory. I guess we should get to it. So a couple of seasons ago,
Yeah, sure.
I felt really clever that we dropped a polymorphed bunny tied to a rock into the ocean.
Yeah, you did.
Because I remember thinking that like it'll just like be down there and like the ocean pressure will crush it.
Mm-hmm.
I was half right.
You were very right. I mean, you were very right about that first part.
It was down there.
But you forgot how polymorph works.
No, I didn't. I knew that it would die as a bunny and be a hobgoblin.
Yep.
And I thought the pressure would crush it. That's where I didn't think that it was that immune to that.
It was a fun, clever move.
Yeah, for anything else that would have really done the job.
It was also kind of a perfect idea of like what you guys have been doing to your enemies, of just like you'll embarrass and take them out, and like that was like kind of like a perfect, like very embarrassing death to be this warrior hobgoblin turned into a bunny and then just dropped in the ocean to be eaten by sharks or just die down there perpetually.
Yeah, it was classic Velvet League, and just like any classic Velvet League move, it blew up in our faces.
Oh, yes.
And he killed me.
Yes, he did.
Well, no, he didn't, but one of
the people that he hired.
Can you specify what those guys were, by the way?
So those were kind of a mix. Those are not in the monster manual.
Yeah.
If people want to see their stats and see like what I took to manipulate that a little bit, they can go to the assassin in the back of the monster manual, which an assassin is pretty high level, and there are 3 of them. And also a warlord hobgoblin. If you also want to see Thwack's stats. And I manipulated them a little bit to change them to my own means and to what type of poison they use and things like that. But essentially the idea was these were, because he's a hobgoblin, he knows of the goblin ways and goblin recruits that he can pull into his favor if he needs. And I think Thwack, after getting back to Landon, there was a 6-month gap between now and then. He went on his own little adventure, but an adventure of revenge.
Sure.
Pulling in the best of the best, these top 3 assassins to take in and take you guys out, essentially. And these were goblin assassins. So I wish those were things in the monster manual, but those are my own things.
I mean, they can be made very easily. Yeah.
But I like them being like a middle point between not fully grown like hobgoblins or bugbears or things like that, and not being a goblin, just something in the middle.
Yeah, human-sized but green and lithe.
Yeah.
So let's go ahead and talk about the first character death we've had on the show, and or player character death, and the first death of a party member that Jay is a DM.
Yep.
That you've ever seen.
Yeah, this is actually the first player character I've ever killed. Was Sweeney. I'm just so proud of it.
Yeah, it's a weird feeling, and
it is very weird.
And here's the interesting thing: is that when we recorded that, it was April, and I had within the past month killed, I think, 2 or 3 player characters in my games. I've killed 3 now, never on purpose. No, I mean that's not entirely true, because one of them it was like, oh, this person's gonna get killed by a monster now, like that's going to happen. But the other 2, it was like, okay, you just failed your death saving throws, and like.
That's it.
I can't help you there.
Sometimes the die just makes that happen. And it's such a weird thing, role-playing, just speaking just randomly off topic, that, not off topic, but when you have, like, character deaths and you're doing death saving throws, it's so interesting because, like, the DM controls everything except for death saving throws. It's very interesting because quite literally, as a DM, I can make anything happen. I can make, fairy god fall out of the sky and do whatever I want. Like rocks fall, monsters. This potion somehow does this now for whatever reason. You can make anything up.
You can give someone disadvantage for reasons that we don't have to know about.
You can do small mechanic things. You can make character, like, enemies decide that they're scared now and run away. Like, you can make whatever choice you want, but the death saving throw is quite personally just left up to the universe.
And there's very, very rare opportunities to modify it.
Yeah.
Because, like, unless you have bardic inspiration or something like that, we don't have any bard. We've never had a bard on the show. Unless I think there's a monk trait where you might be able to, like, sway it a little bit.
I think there's the feat lucky if you have that lets you.
Lucky would apply.
Yeah, if you roll like a natural 1.
Well, there's also a feat.
Yeah, there's lucky, which is if you're a halfling. There's a feat lucky that gives you like 3 points a day where you spend 1 and it lets you like re-roll or like, get advantage.
Oh,
yeah. There's the halfling luck, which is you re-roll natural 1, and then you have 3 luck points that you can use to re-roll things. But
inspiration does it too, but you don't have those things like Sweeney didn't. It's just so interesting to me to be tied to like, well, whatever happens here is how it goes.
Well, the only other thing that helps you is if you're fellow players want to try and help stabilize you or stop you from rolling.
But the problem was, I should have just taken healing potions on my turn because none of my players could have helped me and then lived. You know what I mean?
Most of them were almost dead.
Yeah. I mean, Izzy, maybe, but like, even then, like, she had to focus her energies a little more on taking guys down because it was so clear that at that point, no, she was an air elemental by the time I died. But like, even though I think maybe she was not yet when I was unconscious, but it didn't matter because Alathar went down to 1 hit point.
And I think
Jeremy
Horace
went down
was
to
at
6 at the end of that battle, which never happens. He starts with almost 100, I think.
Yeah.
And it went bad. And I realized afterwards there were things I should have done. You know, I should have used Dimension Door to get to the top banister once everyone had fallen. I would have been a little more clear. I would have had some more rounds on my turn, you know. I wish I had spent some healing potions on my turn. We've kind of decided it's a bonus action to do, so we might as well do it.
Well, you know, there's a lot of things we look back on we wish we had done in our life, but, you know.
Yeah, in our first life.
When it comes knocking.
Reincarnation is my favorite spell. It is far and away my favorite spell in the game.
I want to put this out there before we start talking about reincarnation, because people will probably assume or think that this happened on purpose. I want to clarify.
We should talk about this.
I want to say this very specifically. I did not intend to kill Sweeney or anybody in that fight. Now, I did intend to make that fight very, very brutal.
Yeah.
Because of the story behind it. I did want... This whole season was about things coming back on you.
Yeah.
And the Alark bit at the end, the Yeti thing in the end, and the whole court thing was obviously bringing to light Sweeney's, but also it's not just his previous life, but his current life, his life with the Velvet League, and Thwack and the Three Assassins was very much a reflection of the things that you guys have done in your time as the Velvet League, to reflect on the mistakes that you might have made and things that are coming back on you. And so I wanted that fight to be brutal. Now, I didn't think it would kill one of you.
And
but,
of all the ones for us to kill...
It was you.
Sweeney.
Yeah.
Which is the most... And of all the people to kill, as I said on the Aftermath in Season 7, I wrote, before Season 7, a letter that would explain what had happened in Season 7 had I died. Because I was very nervous of, like... Because Sweeney wasn't going to tell them the truth. And if he didn't tell them anything, and he just died in, like, the first encounter, it'd be like, well, then they're just not going to keep moving. And it'd be like, no, guys, now you're stuck on this island, and I'm sorry. I should write a letter of apology. And I wrote that the night before we recorded... Just a stream of consciousness. Just like, it ended up being like 2.5 pages long. And it was just like, I needed to just get a lot of stuff out there about who they were. And then I never changed it. And I still had it.
Yeah.
That was among one of my favorite moments, I think, of that season, was when they got to read the letter. Yeah. I knew you had it, and I was like, so nervous, like, oh, I hope he doesn't die. And he died. And I was like, well, he's dead now. Oh no! Yes, they get to read it,
and that letter
it was really good.
Thank you. That letter, which by the way, by the end of that episode, was submitted into evidence, and worked against us, and it was just like, it seems like we planned everything really well, except for like we didn't figure out about the Yetis, and we didn't figure out about the organization, or like what they mentioned a botanist. We never figured out what that was about.
Never came back.
Although maybe that has something to do with the I'm blanking on the name of the place now, the swamp that we went to. So maybe it's connected to
you
that.
Mean Water's Root?
Water's Root, thank you. Because they were asking me questions about that.
Who knows?
You guys do.
I mean, I do.
And we don't. Because we spent our time... Oh, man. And that episode also... Back-to-back natural 20s on a persuasion roll.
That was insane.
4,000 gold.
Yep.
And then we had to buy the elements for reincarnation.
I was going to say, that was my other favorite moment.
Yeah.
They were trying to swindle so much gold. He's like, come on. And then they both get natural 20s. He's like, oh, now I have to give it to you.
And Alathar got a 16, which is nothing to sneeze at.
Nothing to sneeze at. And the thing is, like, you know, she obviously is someone that's not going to be pushed over quite easily. She's been doing this for a very long time. But when you have 2 back-to-back natural 20s on the same move... you kind of gotta respect that.
Talk about not being able to control the dice.
Yeah, at that point I'm just like, well, I am by role-playing law required to give you certain things because of this.
Yeah.
Jeez.
That was insane.
Yeah.
Episode 50 is insane.
It is. And again, I cannot point this out more. We did not plan any of it. It was so weird that you kept bringing that letter to every session. It was like the sword of Damocles hanging over you. Well, like, this is going to eventually happen because you have the letter.
I just put it in my folder and then just like left it there.
Yeah, no. And it was just so like, it just so strange how that all aligned. And also to be on episode 50 is when it happened. Was the craziest thing.
The letter was, I mean, I died in 49.
You died in 49.
But the letter was read in 50. We got back-to-back crits in 50. We did almost my whole court scene in 50, with the exception of like the sentencing and the reincarnation itself and the haggling with the oils. It's my favorite episode we've ever had on the show, because the haggling for oils is also just a delight to watch.
That was just so ridiculous.
Just to sit there and just be a passenger for that whole thing.
I think it gave everybody a lot of moments to be very much the characters that we've seen over these past seasons. Like, we got to see Horace be, very much like, oh, well, I want the best oil, and like get swindled by people like he's gotten swindled in the past. Like when he was in Water's Root specifically, he got swindled for those, I think were feathers or something like that.
Yeah, he did.
And we got to see Izzy now becoming basically the voice of reason, and her chaotic powers essentially being center stage and bringing Sweeney back to life, and being kind of like the heart and guide for the group, especially when they've lost somebody.
Yeah.
And then of course we got to see Sweeney dealing with all of his problems in life as he's all finally come to one point. So it ended up being like a very enjoyable episode.
Oh yeah.
And dealing with his new body, which was interesting.
That was very fun.
Yeah. Well, also
also all of that random. Again, we didn't pick halfling. That just happened on the die roll.
Yep. The other thing I was going to say, though, is that talking about characters being their characters, we had a line from Horace that it was a very fast line, but it really stuck out to me and showed his character development over the course of the show, which is that when they were talking to the second, and she was like, no, he has to stand trial, otherwise your arm's going to explode and whatever. And he was like, yeah, no, fine, like, whatever, I'll die, but like, what do you get out of this? Why do you care? And then Horace finally shut it down and said, we need 1,000 gold. Izzy, I'm not letting you die. That was the line. I was just like, I was sitting there, just like, he has come so far.
He's come a long way.
In not a lot of time either, really, since season 6, because Sweeney's departure really galvanized the friendship, I think, between Horace and Izzy. In a way that's really interesting for me to watch now as a character who's a little outside of that relationship now, but to see it like really come to bear in episode 50, and see them pull together and pull Sweeney out of his being dead. It was really powerful stuff.
Yeah.
We're good at this.
Sometimes accidentally. And so I'm just curious, Niels, from your perspective, because Niels not only helps write the adventures, but also is there during the session keeping us all honest with rules that we get terribly wrong.
Doing his best. He is one man, and I cannot keep rules straight in my head. So
and helping
he does
with
what
the
he
recording
can.
and everything. And Niels, I'm just curious, from your perspective, what was it like when Sweeney was about to die at that one area? Because I'm just curious what you were thinking, because I've made some ridiculous decisions off the top of my head in previous episodes, and I've seen your face just like, what the hell, man?
Talking about the plane shift
when I tried to drop Izzy into a different plane of existence in season 1.
I remember that being like, oh, you said you weren't going to do that. And
by the way, that's not how the Cambion's power works.
The plane shift?
Plane shift self.
Oh, no. I know. I changed it.
I know.
It's a magical demon, and it's not exactly a Cambion.
No, I know. I was baffled. I read about that recently, and I was like, oh, you mother. you son of a bitch.
You made it way worse.
I mean, I was just nervous like I am half the time they're in fights where they're about to die or seeming like they're going to die. And then, I saw it coming. I was like, oh, no. And then watching him just fail. Death saving throw after death. I'm like,
no. I succeeded on 2 throws.
Two of them.
It was 2 and 2.
Yeah, it was 2 and 2.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, it was 2 and 2.
But the problem was I don't remember if I took damage or it just failed.
Yeah,
but
I will say I did have control over that, and it was a little bit of an out-of-body experience when I did it in retrospect. I was like, well, the goblin's just going to attack Sweeney, I guess, because as his character, he was sent to do one thing, and it was to kill them and to finish them off.
No, I hear you, man, because we talked about this before about the other games that I run, and I killed 2 in back-to-back sessions at one point. For the second character's death, they were being held by a monster who had disadvantage on their attacks and things, but not against her because she was in his tail. It was a salamander, and like it's an automatic hit, and it's an automatically like it would have killed her. I think she had already failed the death saving throw. She was like in his hand or in his tail, and the players were like, okay, if we don't kill it in this round, which they would have to roll really well to do, it's doable, then she's going to die. And even if I was going to have him be like, well, I'm just going to set this warlock aside and take care of these guys, even though I could just kill this person in an instant and I'm smart enough to know they're a threat, it's like, I can't turn back now. They've set the stakes.
Yeah.
And I can't cheapen it by saying, no, never mind, he's just going to drop her. Like, if he did it, she'd fall into acid anyway, so it didn't matter, or lava. But it was like, yeah, like, the stakes are the stakes. Like, in order for them to matter... Sorry, I cut you off a little bit, but in order for the stakes to matter, we have to show what happens when they're broken. What's the term for when you reach the stakes? When, like, we had to see what happened when, like, the shit hit the fan.
Yeah.
I was just hoping that someone at one point would try and stabilize you or something.
Or feed me a healing potion?
Yeah, or do something, but they were just all so preoccupied with trying to finish off the assassins
To
and
stay alive themselves.
Well, I guess I'll see how this works. Oh, and I forgot that he was actually also getting attacked while passing some death saving throws, but also getting fails from being attacked.
Yeah, and Izzy was trying to take care of she was using her wolves to try to take care of the guys attacking me, but like they were gonna focus on me and not the wolves. You know, like there were just too many combatants.
And
like,
you had a mirror image still left, and I was hoping when I did the attack, I was like, maybe I'll hit the mirror image. Nope, hit you directly, and 2 automatic death saving throw fails.
Yeah,
and I remember after it happened, and you were rolling death saving throws afterwards, I was like, thinking to myself, I was like, I was completely in control of this. I made this happen. And then when you died, I was like, well, that was 100% my fault for sure.
But that's the thing is though, he came to kill. You know what I mean? Like
they did.
We are getting to a high enough level where that is a factor. That is a possibility now. Even though in level 1 felt like we were pretty killable. But like, or level 2, I guess is when we started the campaign.
Yeah.
But you know, it's the nature. Like the things that we are fighting, if they're sentient and they're smart and they know that I am the guy they're hired to kill, they're gonna kill me.
And to be fair, that is the name of those things. They are assassins, and what they do is kill things.
That's their job.
Yep.
That's what he's there to do. Let's talk a little bit about the second as much as we can, because there's a little bit
about the second, because I'm sure, and this is no spoils for the next season. I think this previous one just ended where you guys were essentially, we might see, you know, Horace had a little bit of a romantic moment with the second, and a little flirtation, and it's no spoiling here that you guys will actually start in the town for the next season. So we might learn a little bit more about the second and their organization, but yes, please throw your questions.
I just wanted you to talk a little about what must have been going through her head when, I'm sure it was similar to yours, when I was dead and she still had a trial to get through.
Well, it was definitely almost exactly the same thing that was going through my head, of her just being like, I had a plan, much like Jay and Niels, who had written this, had a plan.
And to be fair, Andrew helped, I'm sure, but couldn't be there.
And had been like, well, this is what our plan was, and this derailed completely. And here's the thing. They had to go through with the trial because of how the tattoo works and how the pentadrone, like their rulings are, they only think in black and white, which is why I liked having them there.
Had it been anything other than Modruns.
Yeah.
Because they are creatures of law and order, and like you can't really like talk them out of it. Like that's the problem with them, is they're very mechanical.
Yeah.
You know?
And here's the thing. I will say that I think just because of the shock, and it was all real, the reactions of the second, because it was just me being like, I don't know what to do now. I do wish I had taken that with a little bit more stride. I think there could have been some other ways to do that with the second, working with you guys to, whether that was confide in what was really going on or whatever it was. But I do like where it ended up, because I thought the court scene was very fun, and the Yeti thing was super weird, and I'm sure it wasn't entirely clear what was going on there. But
so we'll ask follow-up questions in the new season.
But it was a great thing for me to experience, of when something just completely goes entirely off the rails of where you expect it to go, and the focus just entirely shifted in a different direction.
Out of curiosity, what would she have done with my body had the players given it over?
Oh, they just handed the body?
Yeah.
I don't know, Mike, because at that same time, I also didn't know. That was definitely not planned in the backup. Like, when we were writing it, like, oh yeah, and of course if like Sweeney dies, what are we going to do in this scene with the body?
Yeah. Like if Horace had died, she wouldn't have cared, but like we would have still been like, no, we got to go resurrect this guy somehow.
I mean, and I think this is a good recommendation for players and people listening and other DMs listening. If you have moments like this, I think just trust in the characters that you've created and play them out. And play them out as they would. And, you know, if the second has been given the body of Sweeney, maybe she takes it back to the office and just laments back there and just sits and thinks to herself, like, well, this is it. I mean, my plan is completely folded in upon itself to do what I was trying to do. And maybe you have some different character moments with the League because of that. Who knows?
Yeah.
So it's, I think, just trust in your players and the characters you've created, and the story will write itself. Maybe in a better direction than you even planned.
The other thing that I loved is that it was our player's job to bring him back. You know, it wasn't DM or whatever. It wasn't us going to a temple and being like, hey, here's 400 gold, bring our wizard back to life. It was like,
oh, we got one of those things in the back, just drop him in and it'll just be new.
It's like, no, we got to do it. We got to take this on ourselves. We got to go, 30 minutes of just us role-playing and like buying oils and like going digging graves and stuff and bringing him back to life.
Yeah. And now you guys have built a potentially sustainable business down the road.
Potentially. We did bring back a few
business.
people back to life. It's a costly endeavor.
It is a costly endeavor. Very costly.
Yeah.
Although that oil salesman is having like the best week ever because you guys were there.
Yeah, it's 1,000 gold per
Jeez.
reincarnation.
Yeah.
You can like hire a caravan with that amount of gold.
Well, yes, but that doesn't bring your friend back.
No, that's true. That's true.
And it's cheaper than some other resurrection spells, but it's the only one the druid has until 9th level spells.
Wow.
When she actually gets, I don't remember if she gets raised dead or like true resurrection. I think she gets true resurrection because that's the 9th level version. But like clerics, if we had a cleric, you have Revivify, which you can cast anytime within a minute. You have raised dead, which I think is a number of days. I'm not sure. And resurrection and things like that, which are like you have a lot more time on. I think true resurrection is like 100 years. Resurrection might be a year. I'm not sure. I have to look it up because it hasn't really been a factor.
I think true resurrection is 200 and resurrection is 100.
It's a lot more
200.
range.
Yeah,
but
you can touch someone that's been dead for 200 years and just be
but
like,
my favorite thing about
That's
reincarnation is the random roll. Because in there's actually downsides to some of the others. Not with Revivify, but think with Raised Dead, you are at a penalty to all of your rolls for
I think a while,
a day. It's like a -4, and I think it like gets better as days go on. But
That's fine. You're like freshly not dead anymore.
but what's funny is that with reincarnation that doesn't happen. You don't like lose a level or whatever. But like you are a new race.
Yeah.
You have to do a lot of mental math right on the fly, and I had to be like, okay, what's in the book? And I just lost a little intelligence, and I gained a little bit of dexterity, and like figuring out my stuff. And it's such a weird. I love that spell.
Yeah.
It's definitely my favorite spell in the book.
It makes for a great shakeup too.
Yeah. Yep. I don't know what more we can really discuss about season 9. I think we've hit a lot of the points.
Yeah, I think we have.
Oh, Alaric.
Oh.
We haven't really
What? Who's that?
talked about Alaric. I mean, partly is we've only kind of glimpsed him, but we'll hopefully probably see more of him in the next season.
Potentially.
Or at least in the coming seasons or whatever.
I mean, Alaric, we touched on him in the court case with Sweeney giving, kind of the background of what he had done and things like that. I mean, Alaric is definitely, I think we can describe him as just Wizard Fagin from Oliver Twist.
He's a wizard purple man in a lot of ways. That was the guiding inspiration for him, and that was before Jessica Jones premiered and did such an amazing job with that character. But that was definitely who was in my mind when we did our character creation.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And, he's a manipulator, just evil guy who Sweeney thought was in jail.
Yep. Sweeney did. Mike didn't. Mike had a feeling he'd show up at some point, but
Sweeney definitely thought he was in jail.
Sweeney thought he was in prison forever.
And I do think there is something fun about how Sweeney, as a human Sweeney, ran from Alaric most of his life, even after putting him in jail. And I do think it's interesting now that he can come at Alaric as a reborn, essentially, as a new person.
Yeah, Sweeney.
Who is, I guess, will he go by just Sweeney now? And does he not go by Linus Whitaker anymore?
Linus Whitaker died.
Yeah.
I mean,
Is this version just Sweeney?
Yeah. I mean, he didn't sound like he ever went by Linus Whitaker.
No, I know. I mean, like,
previously,
obviously in his previous life. That is his name of that body, of that life.
Yeah.
So
seems that way.
I think that's very interesting to think that now Sweeney might be able to do something that Linus Whitaker could not.
Sweeney's going to have to do a lot of soul searching as well. Figure out what the whole reincarnation thing means. So, yeah, we'll think about it.
Yeah.
And guys, we hope you'll join us because the next episode 53, that's a year.
Yeah.
That's us doing this show for a year.
Wow.
That's pretty crazy, I think.
This has been really, really fun.
Yeah, it's a hoot to do this show.
And God, so many great guests.
Yeah, I was about to say.
And the people we've gotten to come on this show have been amazing. They've been picking up people, if they haven't ever played, picked up the game real fast. People who've been experienced with the game just had tons of fun with it and brought really fun new dynamics to the show. It's just fun because we've never had, at least I feel emotionally, the same season each season, and I think it's credit to you guys. I think it's a big credit also to the guests of that different energy they bring. So definitely thanks to all the guests who came on.
Yeah, it tends to range. The thing I've noticed is that our our even numbered seasons tend to be a little bit more manic or a little sillier,
A little more wacky,
but like that's not necessarily the case every time. And it's just it's just the guest makes the show in a lot of ways. And also just it's fun to do. It's fun to play D&D.
Yeah.
I like D&D.
Oh, yeah.
Like it a lot.
So guys, thank you for listening. Thank you for caring. Thank you for enjoying the show.
Yeah, thanks everybody.
Thank you.
And see you guys in season 10.
Season 10. Thank you so much for joining us for this week's episode. And a very special thanks to Matt Kane for joining us for this season. We threw a lot of curveballs his way, and he rolled with every single one. Be sure to follow him on Twitter at MattKaneUK. And guys, next week is our 1-year anniversary episode. So many milestones recently. And to celebrate, we'll be kicking off a brand new season featuring Jimmy Wong. Jimmy is best known for Video Game High School and his web series, Feast of Fiction, where he teaches how to make fictional food from movies, novels, and TV shows. Guys, it's pretty great. Jimmy was a fantastic guest, and we have a truly wild season in store for you. So we hope you'll join us for that adventure on Friday. Photos and character art can be found in the show notes on partialarc.com. And while you're there, why not check out some of our other podcasts, including Roll the Seas, where myself and Andrew Dickinger discuss the absolute madness of Warhammer 40k. If you have any questions about the show, you can email us at fridaynightquests@gmail.com. You can also follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and Tumblr, all under the handle partialarc. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you on the battlefield.
Yeah, I'm gonna loot the body.
So, how much experience do we get?
Well, now we have a skeleton army, so that's pretty neat.